let's kick things off then. You ready to get into it, Andy?
Absolutely.
Super. Little bit of an agenda for today. I want to set the scene and give an understanding of what the value is of supplier relationship management, why it's so important here and now. And then we're going to hand the word over to you, Andy, understanding a little bit more about how PA Media Group has elevated your supplier relationships, how you built the business case, how you screened the market and chose an SRM solution, and then finally, of course, how you continue to drive adoption across your procurement team, but also the most important aspect, right, with your suppliers as well.
Of course.
Fantastic. A little bit of background about Kodiak Hub for those that are new to us. Kodiak was founded back in 2015 by our founder and our CEO, Malin Schmidt. She founded this company like most tech entrepreneurs do because she needed it. She was sitting on the other side of the table, fed up with the solutions that were out there, recognizing that legacy solutions weren't getting it done. She was fed up with seeing people like me running around in sales and marketing. I'm sure that you probably felt the same way, Andy. Why in the heck do we have our glossy CRM solutions? And on the buy side of the business, you're left to your own devices, Excel spreadsheets, SharePoint, homegrown solutions, and legacy technology to get a pretty important job done, which is to manage the relationships of suppliers globally. Our hypothesis behind Kodiak Hub, but also this space, is that we believe SRM will take the same exact journey that CRM took 20 years ago, giving great and modern tools to drive and automate processes within broader sourcing, procurement, quality, and sustainability teams to manage the relationships of suppliers just in the same way that CRM solutions are managing the relationships of prospects and customers. The bottom line is that SRM is critical, but its full potential is rarely reached in organizations. When looking at this model, which we like to talk about a lot at Kodiak Hub, as the SRM pyramid, right? Like any good pyramid, whether it's the food pyramid or the great pyramids of Egypt, it needs to have a stable base, right? The operational and tactical elements of supplier relationship management are so incredibly important. Everybody wants to talk about collaboration and innovation and driving performance, and we do as well. And these are some of the things that we're supporting. But to be able to get there, there's a whole heck of a lot of things that you need to get it right on the way from an operational, tactical, and strategic perspective. With that being said, these are the exact same areas where supplier relationship management can be able to make a huge impact within a global business and should be able to be a part of any type of business case that you're looking to build for supplier management. The bottom line is procurement is facing new challenges. The traditional role of procurement, right? The procurement of yesteryear. Sorry to say, Andy, maybe you experienced this as well, though, right? What was the focus here? Cost reduction, risk management. I'm curious, Andy, when did these words, transparency, traceability, resilience, innovation, when did those start popping up?
Oh, I think they must have caught us unawares, because in my early days within procurement, it was all about savings.
Yeah.
Saving money, value for money. All these other things that we know now and which are so important today were just buzzwords, but didn't really matter if we didn't deliver on the savings. So crept on us very, very slowly, but it's full front now. So no escaping it.
And I think that the interesting thing is that savings haven't gone anywhere. That's still an essential aspect of the role. But savings are not kind of the lead. It's value that's the lead, right? There's a lot more things in procurement that you as procurement, sourcing, supply chain professionals sitting into this session today have to worry about. New ESG and market regulations and market demands. Your customers expect transparency and traceability. It's your ticket, your license to do business today, right? To have good transparency into the supply chain. Let's be honest, with the impacts of COVID and the geopolitical situation, resilience is on the tip of everyone's tongue. How do you make sure that you get closer to the pulse of your supply chain to ensure that there is not going to be frequent disruptions? And finally, how do you make sure that we're making a real impact, right? How do we continue to improve with our suppliers? These are all the new challenges. And at the same time, cost reduction and risk management hasn't gone anywhere. So procurement is being asked to wear a whole lot of different hats. And that's right. There's this little thing coming towards us all as well, right? Watch out. You guys probably all know about it, but this is a driving factor. Customer demands are not coming from nowhere. There's a legislative tsunami heading towards us all, right? Everything from CSRD, which is on the tips of everyone's tongue, to more niche acts, such as the California Climate Corporate Data Accountability Act. And there's new things popping up every single day. I'm curious, Andy, in your guys' business, how much, maybe 5-10 years ago, were you guys talking about legislation like this in the context of procurement?
Very little, if at all, in reality. Say it was always focused very much on savings. We always try to push the narrative of value for money rather than savings, because it's no point just screwing a supplier into the floor and getting a cheap price if they're then not going to value as a customer, and then you get a poor service, which in turn delivers a poor service to your customer. So it was always about value for money. But in terms of legislation and the things we're talking about today, just wasn't there on the agenda. And if it was there in the background, there was no resource to do anything about it.
Have you started seeing demands from customers in a different way on legislative demands and stuff like that?
Oh, absolutely. Suppliers are becoming much more savvy, so they're starting to ask those questions of us. And that's educating us as a business, because we need to start asking our suppliers those questions as well and getting an understanding. We need to understand it ourselves, what it means, but also then understand how we can support our suppliers to be able to deliver on that as well. Because if we can't deliver it from our suppliers, we can't deliver it to our customers. So there's a knock-on effect there. So we're all part of that same sort of ecosystem.
Yeah, great insights. I mean, we know the conditions, right? Procurement needs to go from being really reactive to proactive. And obviously technology and good orchestration and good process is going to help this, right? But as you notice, maybe in the chat bubble, in the message that I had written, the journey that PA Media Group took definitely, consisted of good process and modern technology. But we're just a little piece of the puzzle. It's great people and the ambitions and the goals to be able to make these things a reality that are the most important. And I think that that's what we want to try and inspire a little bit today here, is how did PA Media Group get started on their journey? Because what it starts with, of course, is being able to build a common understanding in the business of the importance of supplier management. The bottom line, though, is that it's kind of hard to make impact when you're stuck in Excel hell. This was a statistic that we drew from a survey this past year, that 76% of procurement teams are still managing suppliers with Excel solutions or homegrown solutions. And to be able to take a little bit of a pulse of where people are at today in this session, I would like to understand, with the poll that I'm about to launch, which type of tool do you use to manage your suppliers today? Go ahead and take a second. Do you guys have a dedicated software for SRM, a best of breed like Kodiak Hub? Do you have legacy solutions? Do you have a homegrown solution? Or are you using kind of this blend of various office tools, spreadsheets, Word, PDFs? I think that this is going to help give us an understanding as well as to the demographics of those sitting into today's session, and also give an understanding of maybe where are the gaps to being able to build the business case for a supplier management solution. I see that 63% of the audience has responded. Come on, shut down your Netflix show, come back to the webinar that we're here with, and answer on the poll if you have a second, please. Great, we're getting into more answers. And thank you so much for taking the time to be able to answer here. It looks like the majority of people in the call today are utilizing spreadsheets, Word, PDF. Some are using homegrown solutions, but an overwhelming number, 67%, are utilizing kind of the spreadsheet homegrown way of working. Whereas then some people are using legacy software, whereas only one person in attendance that had answered out of the 27 answers here that we got is using a dedicated SRM platform. So We have a uphill battle here, Andy, if we're going to sell in the value of SRM. You ready for the challenge?
I think so, and I think it could be quite easy because I think those 18 people who are using spreadsheets are really looking for a better solution.
All right. Well, I'm interested in hearing how you guys got your journey started, right? Before we do so, the one thing that I wanted to be able to double click on is the importance of SRM, right? Before we get into it. I think that it's also often SRM is seen as a snapshot, right? It's a little part of the broader source to pay process. In our world, SRM is just as pivotal as ERP, right? It's a end-to-end process, and it starts at the beginning of the relationship and it doesn't end. It's continuous, right? It's a resource and relationship planning or management just in the same way that enterprise resource planning is, right? And it needs to be seen as such. It's an iterative process. And if you're really going to get close to the pulse of your supply chain, these are the things that you need to do consistently throughout the relationship and the source to pay process. Andy, when you see this particular overview, is there anything that comes to mind as to kind of like how SRM fits into your guys' source to pay process?
Well, it didn't used to fit into the process. The simple reason being that supplier relationship management is the one thing that gets dropped off when there isn't resource to do anything else. I think most procurement professionals will tell you they're very good at doing contract management, but that's not the same as supplier management. And it's the supplier management that doesn't get the time that it needs because there isn't resource to do it.
That's a really interesting point that I just want to double click on really quickly. In your world, what's the difference between contract management and supplier management?
So contract management is actually managing the contract itself, looking at the renewal, making sure that it's delivering on what it needs to deliver, rather than focusing on the actual supplier, which is what we're going to be talking about today in terms of the due diligence that we need to do, ensuring that the suppliers following our ESG credentials and that they're on that journey with us. So it's very different. Contract management is the same. Okay, we've got the contract here. Let's get it in place. Get it signed. Great. And then we move on to the next one. We're not building the relationship with the supplier, or we're not making sure the supplier's doing what they should do for the rest of the contract term.
And I mean, the two are intertwined as well, right? Because to be able to ensure that a supplier is following up on what was agreed upon, from the contract is so incredibly important. And it gives a holistic value, like you were just talking about, matching the ESG and the compliance or due diligence profile also to, are they meeting our SLAs? Are they delivering on time with the quality that we decided upon in our contract, right? And that's a never-ending kind of cycle in that case.
Oh, absolutely. And I think what we tend to do is leave the supplier relationship management to the actual stakeholder who's then got ownership of that contract within the business. It's not necessarily managed by procurement, but it should be along with the stakeholder. Procurement seem to do the contract. We just want to move on to the next thing. Go, okay, the supplier's being looked after by the stakeholder, but are they being looked after by the stakeholder properly and in a way that minimizes risk to us as a business? And it's my job as procurement to make sure that risk is minimized. Probably can't guarantee it if I'm not managing the supplier relationship after the contract's been signed.
And that value is being extracted, right? That's also something that happens during a life cycle, not just following the contract. And if procurement, like you said, is running in parallel to the stakeholder, you're able to continue to impact that, right? From not only day one, but ongoing.
Absolutely. And it creates a better relationship as well, because you're not just talking to a supplier once every 12 months or once every 3 years when the contract comes through renewal. You've got that ongoing relationship and you've had it from the very beginning if you've done a proper onboarding SRM as well. So yeah, the whole ecosystem is so much better by having SRM in place.
Great insights. I know that this looks familiar, so I don't need to ask the question very much more. I'm sorry if this is the world that you're living within. And as it said, 67% of the attendees today are living in this world. For those that don't know about us, this is the Kodiak Hub platform, a modular scalable platform. This session is not about us, but these are the types of tools that are out there. We're just one example I urge you, if you don't recognize these SRM platforms out on the solution market, make sure that you go out there and search. There is plenty of great resources. We'll share with you some of those networks later today that you can help to on your journey when searching and benchmarking solutions that are out there. But our solution is just one of many that are out there, and we'd be happy to be considered if you are looking to take a journey as well. Some of the value to be had by SRM, and I think that this is something that we've seen in interviews and also case studies we've done with our customers, how we can be able to deliver value on an operational, tactical, and strategic level. And if you guys are looking to build the business case for SRM, this is a great framework to be able to understand. Operational savings, time, right? Spent on manual tasks. How much are we going to be able to save? What is it going to be for my total cost of ownership? How can I be able to control Maverick spend to be able to ensure that I have better negotiation power when I go into, renegotiations with suppliers? And then finally, of course, a very difficult value point to be able to really put a figure on, right, is the prevention of loss in brand and shareholder value. And I'm curious about this from your guys' perspective, Andy, because PA Media, you guys have a brand that is valued and seen as a trustworthy brand. It's been around for a while. Do you guys think about the strategic perspectives of the supplier relationship?
Yeah, you're right when you say we've been around for a while. I think it's about 155 years now. So we're doing something right, and we are trusted in the media space that we're in. And I think as much as anything, when we look at ESG, it is about building on the trust that we've already got from our customers within the industry. So ensuring that we're seen to be doing the right things. We know what our customers are asking of us, and so we need to show that yes, we're doing this, but we're also making sure our suppliers are doing it as well. Because it's okay as being trusted as a news agency, and the content and data we put out to our customers, great. But then if we can't fulfill the governance side of things, then that's obviously going to have a dent in the confidence of our just existing customers, but potentially new customers as well.
And I think that kudos to you guys for taking the leap as well and really making sure that you take these things seriously. The reason why, it's extra kudos in my opinion is because you guys are a service business, right? You guys are delivering in the end, you're delivering media to the masses, right? And distributing that in an awesome way. But the bottom line is that you're not producing anything, right? There's no raw materials or elements or conflict minerals in your supply chain. But even still, the value of the relationship and managing that relationship from a risk, ESG, compliance, and performance perspective is still important to your business. And I think that that's awesome to be able to see as well.
Absolutely. You're right. We don't have a very deep supply chain because we don't manufacture products. We sell services. But we are buying in services, we're buying licenses, platforms, consultancy. We do buy products like everybody. We buy laptops, we buy office equipment, etc., etc. So a lot of what we're looking at when we talk about ESG is perhaps the governance, so the G element of ESG, and making sure that we've got that part of it right. We're making sure that our suppliers have got good environmental policies in place themselves. They've got good HR policies around labour rights and human rights. Data protection is so important these days, not just GDPR, but the actual, the integrity of the data itself. So making sure that there's good policies around there with our suppliers, because our customers need to know that if we've got their data, it's going to be safe. We sometimes have to rely on third parties to keep that safe. So we need to make sure that they're doing what they're doing. So yeah, the governance part and the risk part of it is absolutely huge for us.
Yeah, great to know. And we've already talked with you a bit now, but now it's all about PA Media. So we're really excited to dig into your case. One of the things that I think a lot of people wonder, and where I want to start as well today, is how to build the case. But before we get into that, I want to understand a little bit more about PA Media. So if you don't mind, beyond the words that are on screen, Andy, do you mind providing us with some background of PA Media, what you guys are doing?
Of course. So yeah, we're a business of about 155 years now. Started off in traditional sort of print media. As we all know, everything's sort of moving more digital now, and newspaper circulation is dropping off. So we've very big in providing digital content and data. We have streaming business, stock image business. We're big in horse racing and betting. So it's about providing that data and content to our customers. We're in the background. So if you're looking on the BBC website, seeing how your favourite football team's getting on, you're seeing that data coming through, those scores and things. That will have come from us. We're providing all that backing data that the likes of BBC and you open up the Telegraph, you'll see some content in there. Again, coming from us, from all different sources. So we always look to acquire businesses within the media space so we can diversify and ensure that as a business we can continue to be strong. So when we do have awful things like COVID coming along and certain parts of the business shut down, other elements can continue to thrive in those kind of environments. So that's probably what makes us successful as a business, and why we've been around for 155 years and hope to be there another 155 years, although sadly I won't be around when that anniversary comes up.
Then it will be an AI version of you talking.
Absolutely.
Understood. Cool. So I want to start again with the question that I think a lot of people have when they're looking to get into this space, right? And maybe is on the tip of a few people's tongues today in this session. Why exactly did PA Media Group decide to start investing in SRM, as the program, as well as then also the technology to follow as well? So I would love to hear a little bit more about kind of what you guys think about. And, we obviously have broken this down into a few areas where we know you guys hit on things, but I'm curious to hear from you as well. What were some of the driving factors?
Okay, well, the main driving factor is that we weren't doing it. So clearly we had to understand that we did. We started a ESG working group. We recognised we were probably a little bit behind the curve, so we needed various stakeholders from around the business to come together, look at how do we start to build our ESG strategy and get to where we want to be. And if we think at what we think of our business and how much pride we have on it, we've got to have these this strategy in place, because customers are going to look at us and think, well, where's PA Media's strategy around this? So we recognised we had to do something. From a procurement perspective, I was tasked with identifying how can we manage suppliers, how can we start to ask them these important questions in terms of how they manage their supply chains, how them as a business have their environmental policies and how they conduct themselves. So that was the first part. We knew we had to do something. So my first thing was to go away and thinking, okay, how am I going to do this? I've got hundreds and hundreds of suppliers. So I started to write an email that I could then send out to everybody and ask them to send all their different policies in. I thought that'd be fantastic. That will work. I'll have a spreadsheet so I can keep track of everything. Fantastic. So I wrote my email, and then I thought, this might take a bit of time. There's got to be a better way. So I stopped and I didn't send any emails out.
Wow.
And I thought, there must be a system that'll help me to do it. So I did what all good procurement professionals will do with the amount of experience I've got. I went onto Google and I started to learn and understand a bit about what kind of solutions would be out there in the market. And that's how we then started to look at what would fit our requirements. And of course, as part of that, we also fell upon Kodiak Hub as well.
Yeah. And I mean, the story of what led you to the understanding of the time saved is so fantastic. The creation of that mail, and in that moment, understanding that there's an issue with this, right? There's got to be a better way. I know about your guys' background as well. You mentioned it, your customer demands are there. And we talked about this before, right? This is becoming a ticket to trade, a passport to do business. What are some of the requirements specifically that you guys are seeing from clients? I'm curious, because that's where that's where it helps you to maintain that competitive edge as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, when we realized we needed to do something around SRM, it was twofold. So it's making sure that as a business, we're doing the right things, we've been seen to do the right things, because ethically, that's what we want to do. You know, we want to look after our people. We want, you know, our potential customers to know that's the kind of business we are. We're good people to work for and good people to, you know, to provide services to. From a customer perspective, we were starting to see as different areas of our business would be going out to tender. So if we use one of our Stream AMG, which is a streaming business, as the name suggests, you know, we deal a lot with sort of high-end sporting organisations and sporting bodies. So we'd be filling out these tenders, and then you get to that section where it says, how do you manage your suppliers? You know, do you make sure that your suppliers have policies around the HR? Do they have an ESG policy? What's the sustainability policy? You know, and how far down the tiers do they go to manage their supply chain? And we were struggling to tick those boxes to say, yes, we do it, because in reality, we didn't. Anecdotally, with some evidence to say that we lost out on some tenders as a result of not being able to answer that. And going back, and I'll show my age, maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when I was first in procurement, it didn't really get a mention. Sustainability wasn't really mentioned. Then it started to get a percent or two importance when you're starting to look at evaluation criteria, and now it's become a lot more important. So we realised that if we want to continue to grow as a business, we had to get on this SRM journey, because we had to tick those boxes, not just because we want to grow as a business, but we knew it's also the right thing to do from an ethical perspective. So that was one of the key drivers to actually get the support to get a solution so we could start our journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to understand a little bit more, because, you know, you guys have taken a journey, and we're so happy that you found us, but, you know, there was a road there, obviously. So, and I think a lot of people, it is a little bit overwhelming, right? They are trying to go out to market and understand what in the heck is out there. So how did you guys go about selecting a solution at PA Media?
So we try to keep it simple and focus on what did we want a system to do. We didn't want to run before we could walk.
Starting with the end in mind as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we knew we needed something that's going to allow us to send out automated questionnaires to suppliers that would enable us to get those responses, have some kind of scoring mechanism so we could see how they rated in terms of their responses, and then some form of analytics. So it's okay getting the data, but then you've got to do something with it and understand it and how that can improve your business and your relationships. So we were very focused on what we wanted. So we looked at numerous solutions, including yourselves. We had various demos with some of these providers as well. So we got an understanding of, can it do what we want it to do at a basic level?
Yeah.
What are the ongoing capabilities that, as we sort of go on with our journey, that we can bolt on as additional modules? And obviously then, what's it going to cost? Because the reality is, we didn't have a budget for this. So we had to make sure that we weren't going to be asking for £100,000 from our finance director and being told very politely to go away. So they were the key things. Make sure it's got the right functionality, understand how it can develop as we develop going forward, and then trying to find something that would fit within the price point that I could be comfortable with to go to our FD and say, can I have this amount of money, please?
And I think the thing that you hit on there that's so important, right, is when you're going on the journey, because this is a journey. It was for you guys, and it probably is going to be for many people that are in this session today, whether, you know, they end up collaborating with Kodiak Hub or another solution provider. The bottom line is, if you're implementing a program, forget about the technology, it's going to be a journey, right? But then once you're looking to apply technology to take you to boost your capabilities along that program and process, well, you need to look long-term. So yeah, you can look at here and now, does it fit our requirements, but is it going to meet our requirements a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, right?
Absolutely. And, we were at the very start of our journey, but what we didn't want to do is sort of reach a point in, say, 12, 24 months and find that the system we had would sort of reach the ceiling of its capabilities and then have to potentially look at a new solution.
Yeah.
Which is obviously going to be very painful for everybody,
Sure.
Costly as well. So we want to make sure that if we got something, there was a clear roadmap, not just of our roadmap, but of the solution provider's roadmap as well, that was going to continue to develop further down the line.
Yeah.
Just going back to the point about the money and funding, I think what's important is that when you create your working group, or are you trying to get kind of approval, you've got the buy-in from the top. Our CFO was a sponsor of this working group, so that was fantastic. They understood that we needed to do something.
Yeah.
They also understood that we didn't have the resource to do it manually, and that there was going to have to be a level of investment to help us do this, to do it and to do it quite quickly. So we're very fortunate in that. And our finance director was also part of that group as well. So it was easy in that respect, but you've got to have that buy-in at the beginning, because otherwise trying to get any spend approved, obviously, as we know in this day and age, is very, very difficult.
You betcha. You betcha. I want to just point at some of the additional resources and sites. Google is king. Let's be honest, right? If you're trying to go out there and find a solution, Google about it when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
But there is some benchmarking sites out there, some that are pay to play, others which are then driven by user or analyst reviews. The ones at the top that you see, Spend Matters and Upwards, are then definitely the capabilities where there's analysis from analysts, as well as then user reviews that you can review. Whereas, of course, Gartner has their Magic Square. That is a pay-to-play model for vendors. So obviously, you have to be, a subscriber to Gartner as a vendor to be a part of it. But it's another good resource. And then, of course, local trade shows where different solution providers are sponsoring as well. Great opportunities for people to be able to see what type of solutions are out there as well. And you hit upon a little bit of the next item, which I think is important, right? How in the heck are you building the business case? And you mentioned that you guys got finance included early, right? They were a part of the ESG committee from the start. And like you said, you got that sign off by the CFO from the start as well. But, what are some of the other elements as to how you built this case? I mean, it's not the easiest case to build for everybody. So what were some of the levers?
So what we had to do is, once we'd done our first bit of evaluation of the market, I was able to get an understanding of sort of the price from one side of the spectrum to the other, and then make a judgment on actually on this side of the spectrum, I can get what I need. So I went to my finance director and says, okay, it's going to cost, we think this amount of money, and this will get us what we need, and this would be a good system. So I was given approval to okay, you can have that amount of money, now go and get the provider who sits within that financial envelope. And that came down to yourselves and another provider. Both had great capabilities, both could do exactly what we want. Just sort of diverting away a little bit for the moment, the reason we chose Kodiak was, yes, you sat within the financial envelope. Yes, you could do everything we needed, and you had that scope for us to grow with the system going forward. The system itself was super user-friendly. And as Kodiak people like yourself, you were just sort of all over us, supporting us, answering questions, no hard sell, just you demonstrate the knowledge of what you've got. And that was great for me, because I needed confidence that actually somebody knows what I'm going through here. Somebody knows the journey that I'm going on, and you guys did that fantastic. So that's the reason ultimately why we chose Kodiak.
Yeah.
But yeah, once we could say to our working group is, we've got this system, we can get it off the ground quite quickly, and I think the implementation was quoted about 6 weeks, and then we can sort of almost hit the ground running from that point. So it was very easy that we could say, do you know what, within 3 months of signing, we can start having these questionnaires out, and we can start getting responses, and we can start to demonstrate we're doing supplier relationship management. So I think because we could hit the ground running so quickly, it was very easy to get that budget signed off. And we actually got the budget signed off. It was non-budgeted spend. We didn't have to wait till the financial year. I think we started the process in about October, November. We did it then because the buy-in was so much. We demonstrated we could really make a real difference with this, and it was easy. And as I said before, it would be, resource intense, heavy to do it manually. In fact, we wouldn't have done it realistically.
Yeah, and I'm super happy that you highlight, of course, obviously, the team here. I mean, they're fantastic at delivering. And like you said, though, also, right, it's quick time to value, not only with our solution, but with a lot of solutions that are out there, right? The bottom line is that I think that businesses often, when buying technology, period, wind up in this paralysis by analysis, right? It's got to do everything down to the T. Why does that button sit there? Shouldn't it be here? And getting in your own way of looking at the big picture, which is that, you have a requirement and you're trying to have the end goal in mind and continuing to keep that in mind of that you needed to fulfill your ESG requirements. You wanted to save time and you wanted to create competitive edge, right? And you needed to find the solutions that could fulfill your requirements to do so. And you guys executed upon that. And I think that that's so important. That's almost more important than the financial figures that you can be able to put behind it. But the other aspect is like you said, right? Our team is versed in what our solution can help with, and we're there to be able to guide you the whole way, which also means, of course, that we're there to be able to help our clients to build the business case as well. So I think that that's also so important. So, all right, let's double back to this then. Once you've now chosen Kodiak, thank you for doing so. We appreciate your guys as a customer. How in fact did you guys, move forward? Like, how do you enhance adoption, right? Because there is the buyer's remorse. Let's be honest, right? Everybody feels it, whether it's a brand new T-shirt or it's a new sparkly technology. There's this dip of belief in, oh, wow, okay, now we need to get into it. Now we need to actually adopt this thing. So, I mean, how did you guys make sure that you got buy-in and ensure adoption after executing as well?
Okay, so we took quite a soft launch approach to this. We didn't sort of go with some big hoo-ha to the business and say, hey, look, this is what we're going to be doing. We're starting from a standing start. We needed to learn how to use the system. We needed to get things right. I think in terms of the questionnaire that we put out there, we're on version 9 now. And after about 3 months, we're already on version 6 because we were learning. And as we were getting responses back from our suppliers, the way we were asking the questions perhaps weren't giving us the answers that we were wanting to get. So there's a lot of misinterpretation. So there's a lot of trial and error in the early days from our perspective to get it absolutely right. So we could then, with confidence, say to our stakeholders, hey, this is what we're doing now. And look at the results we're getting from this. So I think one of the big things, and a lot of procurement people I'm sure will agree, is procurement need to be involved in any new procurement at an early stage in the process, not at the point of where somebody goes, hey, I've got a signed contract here. Can you give me a purchase order number?
Yeah.
What our stakeholders understand is that procurement there as an enabler. We're there to do the heavy lifting. And they also understand more and more there's more due diligence to do than there's ever been before. And they don't want to do that. They don't want to touch it, but they know it has to be done. So they're going to come to their friendly local procurement department. We can get involved early. So we can help with the contract negotiation and the contract reviews, but we can do the questionnaires, we can do the financial background checks. We get to do it all now. And at the end of it, and when we get the questionnaire back, we can give our stakeholder a lovely PDF and go, here are the responses. You can see all the sections. These are what they scored on this section, that section. And we can also highlight any risk there as well. So if it's around, depending on what the contract is, if data security is sort of pivotal to the contract and they're scored quite low on something, we can go to the stakeholder and the subject matter expert within our IT and say, we're not happy about this answer. Is that a problem? And if it is, we can go back to the supplier and ask for some more information. Or the stakeholder might say, actually, for what they're providing, that's not going to be a problem. The risk is very low. So it really helps us at that early stage of understanding, is this supplier the right supplier for us? You know, have they got the capabilities and the capacity to deliver this for us?
Great response. There's a few questions here that I think fit in well to kind of how you guys are today using Kodiak. And, you know, you guys obviously have a land and expand approach. Like you said, right? You're iterating, reviewing, highlighting the wins of things, and then sharing that with the team so everybody continues to understand the value. There's a few questions that I think are relevant to your guys' use here. So, for example, how many suppliers are PA Media Group currently managing with Kodiak Hub? That was the first question related to use case.
Okay, well that's interesting. So when we got Kodiak Hub, and we thought, right, we've got literally thousands of suppliers.
Yeah.
Not that they're all getting used at the same time, but we've still got hundreds of suppliers that we'll be using every month. We weren't sure where to start with it in terms of which supply should we put through the process, which shouldn't we do. So we took the easy approach, which was, well, let's do the ones with the highest amount of spend, because clearly there's a risk there. So, you know, some low-hanging fruit, fantastic. So we're able to sort of do those, wonderful. And these were existing suppliers, so we weren't just looking at onboarding new suppliers. We wanted to do it retrospectively for some of our key suppliers as well. Yeah. So that's where we started. We then thought, well, what we're going to do next. And at the same time, we've got a piece of work running around looking at the risk of our suppliers and how that relates to our revenue. So if we've got a supplier that provides a critical service to us, and there's, you know, that's pivotal to a service we provide to a customer. If that service goes down, what happens to that revenue? Where's the business continuity plan that makes sure that that doesn't fall over and it continues seamlessly? So what we did, we reached out to all our stakeholders and said, these are all your contracts. Let's try and categorize them. Tell us which ones are critical, which ones are strategic, which ones are low risk. And from that, we're able to understand, okay, these are the suppliers we need to focus on. So it may not be a case of, well, we don't spend 100 grand with that supplier. We might only spend 5 grand. But actually what they provide us is absolutely critical to the business. So those suppliers will also put through the assessment as well. And that's really, really good, because what that will leave us with is hopefully a very short list of suppliers where there is perhaps some risk there, because one of the questions we ask is, do they have a business continuity plan in place, which will keep our services running, you know, if there is an adverse event? If they can answer yes to that, fantastic. If they can't, and we don't have a plan B ourselves, then that's a risk. That's a risk. At the moment, we've got about 100 suppliers that we've assessed. That grows every week as we identify other suppliers that need to go through this process, as we onboard new suppliers that we identify need to go on there as well. So I don't know if 100 sounds a lot or not a lot, but what you have to consider is when you're getting these assessments back, you've got to look at them all, you've got to do something with it, and you've got to analyze them.
And I think that's a good point, right? Because I mean, 100 is of course a narrow scope as far as like our broader client base, right? There's some people managing thousands, tens of thousands, right? But Andy, you also said something interesting, right? You guys segmented it and then decided who you were going to manage in the platform. Absolutely. And the important thing is that you guys are using the insights to be able to create corrective actions, to be able to put in place, you know, action plans or improvement proposals for suppliers as well. You're not just leaving it at that. It's not a tick box exercise for PA Media. And I think that that's so important. There was another question that dovetails nicely as well, because you just mentioned it. How do you control the onboarding of new suppliers? And I know that the use of our platform has gotten procurement involved more, you know, earlier in the process, which is is a good thing from your guys' side. How exactly have you controlled the onboarding of new suppliers, and does everything come via procurement now?
Yeah, so we have centralized procurement across the whole group. So regardless of which area of the business, they will come through us. So if there's any contractual activity there, anything where there's any sort of potential risk, it comes to the procurement in the first instance. So at that point, we can then start to do the onboarding with the supplier, send out the questionnaire, do that assessment on them and identify whether there's anything we need to clarify. And we're doing that at the point before we sign any contract with them. So it almost forms part of the negotiation as well. And that works really, really well because we get to do everything then, even just making sure that a PO gets raised. So when invoices come in, it can be matched. My bugbear, I'm sure a lot of other people on this call as well will be, when you get an invoice and somebody says, can you pay this invoice? And you know nothing about it. So we've been able to get away from a lot of that rogue spend and have everything channeling through my team.
That's fantastic. And that's the control that's necessary so you guys can be value adders, right? When it's all said and done.
Absolutely. Doing something retrospective, well, it can highlight risk.
Yeah.
What you want to do is highlight that risk before you signed a contract and the service has started, not when the first invoice drops
that's right.
On your desk.
So what parts of the process have changed or improved? And we just hit upon some of it, right? You guys have gotten involved in the process earlier. Is there other aspects that you really feel like you have changed or shifted? And I mean, change is difficult sometimes. So, how have you guys managed that change as well?
Yeah, I think with our business, because people are spread far and wide, and it's easy to create silos when you've got that. I mean, a challenge we have is getting all the different brands of the business to work together, because we can put a joint proposal together. If you can get a streaming business and the data business to work together, you've got a really good package there to put to a supplier. And it was similar with process procurement, getting people to know, actually, you've got to come down this route, particularly when you acquire businesses that we do and they've been used to doing their own thing. Sometimes procurement sat with that individual of that cost center.
That's a tall task.
Absolutely. So there was a lot of education for us to say, look, there is a centralized procurement function here. We are here to support you. And I always use the word heavy lifting. And, we want the SMEs to focus on the technical aspects of what they do well. What do they want delivering? They don't want to be bothered about the contract. They don't want to be bothered about the due diligence. So knowing that we support them with that, we just find that they come to us sooner. So the changing culture, which was changing anyway, means we get more people directing to procurement in the first instance, because they know we're going to do that heavy lifting. And as a result of being involved earlier, we get to do all the core procurement stuff around the negotiation and contract reviews and all that kind of good stuff as well.
Yeah, and I think that an understanding across the business of the importance of procurement, you guys have leveraged this opportunity. And I mean, not to say that procurement wasn't a top priority, and it obviously was. Otherwise, you guys wouldn't have been getting the budget that you required to make this program a reality. But leveraging something that was a project to be able to build a broader understanding across the organization, such a smart way to be able to really just continue to sell the value of procurement as well.
Oh, absolutely. And we're into year 2 now. So we're starting to reassess the suppliers that we did last year. And what's been great is that every supplier we've reassessed have come back and they've scored higher, which is fantastic. So it shows that they're continuing to do their journey. It's minimizing risk for us. And it's a great story to tell the business and say, hey, look, our suppliers are getting better, they are improving, and we're working with the right suppliers, and that's great. That's great for us. And with the analytical tool that's available within Kodiak Hub as well, we can dice it up any way we want. We can look at all sorts of information, and that's really important to us, because what we want to do is make sure, are we asking the right questions? If everybody's answering no to a particular question, well, is it the right question, or is it actually a risk that every supplier's given us? So
that's a super interesting point, right? Yeah.
Okay. So it's very thought-provoking once you start playing with analytics in terms of what you can do and what it presents, things that you perhaps didn't think about before. So yeah, super useful. And you can't do that with a spreadsheet.
Well, you can try at least. And if anyone has a better way of doing it, then we'd love to hear from you as well. But it's super interesting to hear the journey that you guys have taken, and we're so happy that we're just a small part of that as well. What's next for you guys? I mean, what's your long-term vision for this thing?
Well, we want to continue putting more suppliers through the process. That's now embedded and woven into our onboarding process. Again, through an assessment. We won't put every supplier on there. but where it's high value spend or it's a critical service, they will absolutely go through that process. The things evolve as well, of course. So the questionnaire we've got now, that'll need to be reviewed. We don't have anything on there asking about AI, which clearly I understand that's quite a big thing these days.
Yeah.
So, we've got to be aware that as legislation changes, as new risks develop, we've got to adapt to be asking our suppliers the right questions. So just because we asked them a question last year, that might still be relevant, but there might be something else we need to ask them as well to make sure we're still managing that risk. We also want to look at some of the other modules we can add on. So we do things separately at the moment. Say, for example, we do financial background checks, but we do it through a separate system. Ideally, we want to have as much as we can within Kodiak Hub, so it's one seamless solution. So I think, because we can demonstrate the value now to the people that hold the purse strings, that helps us moving forward to get further investment to say, look, let's do this now. Let's make this bigger and better and more effective. Anything you do around supplier relationship management takes time. But if you've got a good system, it reduces the amount of time that you have to put into it. You can't get away from it adding time to what you do, but it's making sure you get the value out of it, and having a proper system will do that. A spreadsheet won't do that.
That's a fantastic insight. And it's a long-term thought process. It's a growth mindset. Development is important to keep in focus, like you said, right? Landing and expanding in your use, landing and expanding in the supplier's understanding and their ability to develop. And what has been the outcome? Well, you guys have seen, development over time with your supplier base, and continuing to keep that mindset is so crucial. It's the 1 times 10 times 100. There's kind of an equation that's utilized in innovation projects. Spend an hour now to save 10 minutes later, compounding, to the ability to save hundreds of thousands later.
Absolutely.
Following. And I think that's the mindset that is so important. It's also, though, the aspect that's difficult to be able to build a business case around. And we're sympathetic to that as well as a vendor of solutions, but we're happy to be able to support as well. And we're so happy that we've been on part of your guys' journey. I would love to shift over as well into a question, the last of the question and answer. We've gotten a lot of questions, Andy, so there's some more stuff coming at you. You ready for some quick fire?
I'm ready. Yes,
you ready for some quick fire? Because we only have 6 minutes left on the session. Awesome. Cool. Awesome. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen. There was a question from Peter. Can we help build a strong business case? Absolutely. You saw some of the things that we showed around FTE savings. And I saw there was a comment as well. Yes, of course, FTE is not looking at reduction of head, but of course it's looking at how can your team be able to move those opportunities from operational tasks that are manual and not value adding to more strategic tasks. And that's the mindset that you have to have when looking at that FTE savings that you're going to be able to create. We definitely can help to be able to build a business case. Can we be able to integrate with Microsoft Business Dynamics? Absolutely. Most of our clients have some type of ERP or broader S2P integration. We have an open API architecture as well within our solution. I'll kick this one over to you, Andy. I mean, procurement was your guys' champion. We see that the champion can shift, right? Sometimes it's procurement, sometimes it's sourcing, sometimes it's the category manager. I mean, for us, the strategic sourcing elements are the most important to be able to be managed in the platform, but we can see quality and sustainability also being drivers. What is your thoughts when you see who should be the champions of this SRM project?
Within procurement, it sits purely with the core procurement function, because we have to administer it. We have to make sure that it's working and it's delivering what it's meant to be doing. I mean, it's interesting on the question here where it says about category managers or buyers. In my environment, a category manager, could well be a procurement specialist. If you talk about that category manager being sort of the head of a business unit, for example, then absolutely, it sits within procurement in my mind.
Yeah, great. Thanks for responding there. So how long did it take you guys to get around to managing these 100 suppliers? I mean, you guys are now in year 2. I mean, you were able to get back responses during that first 12-month span, but I assume that there was a quicker time to value than that, as you mentioned before.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably took us about 14 months to get 100 suppliers. Now, partly that's because, we went about this in our own time. We could have done that quicker, but we took our time to get to that point. You know, if we say we've got 100 now in 14 months, we probably only had half of that in about 2/3 of the time. So it's the last 6 months where we've really pushed on, as we've really understood about the risk we need to manage, identifying which of those suppliers need to be managed from a risk perspective. But you've got to consider it's not just about how many you get on. Consider you've then got to manage them. You've got to look at that data, and then in 12 months' time, if 12 months' time is your target, reassess them as well. So it can become a beast. So you've got to make sure you can manage it and not just have all that data sat there and doing nothing with it.
And something to keep in mind, right? You guys have 100% response, right? Like this is the other aspect of it, and or damn near close 100% response.
Very, very close. Very
and whether
close.
it's 200, 300, 1,000 suppliers, right? I think that's also going back to the decision of what are you utilizing the SRM for, right?
And what I will just add to there, just some context, those 100 suppliers account for about 70% of our contracted spend.
Yeah.
So we're talking several £1 million that's covered already from those 100 suppliers.
Fantastic. How does the solution interface with other parts of procurement, the source to contract solution, the purchase to pay? Very simply, I mean, we fit within your guys' landscape. We have plenty of clients, for example, that have like a Coupa or a Reba, sourcing through those solutions, whether they're doing the pre-contract qualification or the after life cycle management on our platform. That's up to kind of the decision of the user, right? And the integrations between those solutions are pretty seamless, just like it would be with a P2P or an ERP, sharing, for example, purchase order data, financial data, contract data, and alike. The tracking of calculations, are you tracking the calculations to confirm delivery on those returns of investment? Yes, of course. And also, it's not just the benchmarks that we're seeing within our organization. It's also benchmarks across. And some of the things that I shared today were also conservative figures around ROI. And if you guys are interested in getting your own ROI calculated, please feel free to reach out to the team and be able to get a demonstration of the platform as well. I don't think that we have much more time for so many more questions. Just one last question then that Cheryl has asked here. We separate our performance and relationship management and related risks from things usually monitored by information security or third-party risk. What do others do? So that's a question more to others, I think, out there. But I think that this varies from business to business as we see, right? And I think that it is important to shift, because you got to make sure that you're pushing the right KPIs to the right suppliers in that case. Listen, if you're interested in learning more, please feel free to schedule a one-on-one meeting with myself or someone in our team. There you see the link on screen with my very scary airbrushed picture as well. Feel free to go ahead and click to schedule a one-on-one meeting. If you would like to be able to have one with our team, you could be able to click on the link that's on screen now and book that in. We also will be, of course, distributing the slides, which I will share currently. So you could feel free to download the slides. You also will be, after this event, you will also directly receive a recording of the event as well. So on screen, as you can see, you guys can feel free to download the slides. If you'd like to schedule a one-on-one meeting with myself or any of the team to discuss more about the Kodiak Hub solution, feel free to be able to do so now. Andy, thank you a million times over. I appreciate you taking the time, and we're looking so much forward to being on the rest of your guys' journey with you.
No, thank you. It's been a real pleasure. It's been nice to share the story and the journey. Thank you.
And I think it's inspiring for a lot of the listeners today. So I hope that they're able to take their own journey. Thank you so much, Andy.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks to everyone that sat in as well. Cheers.